What's up YouTube? Today's video we're going to be going over the process of finishing the first 11 link or 12 link Dex Stacking Claw that has ever been made, and it is a fully perfect one. We're going to go over the crafting process. But before we start, this is some footage of the build in action. My gear is not insanely good in terms of being like fully perfect yet, but you can usually judge how good a build is in terms of clear and damage based on how many reward layers you get on Simulacrum. Like, most people will struggle to get 7 layers of rewards unless your build has insane coverage while being able to stand still or stay in one spot. So in order to get 7 rewards is quite good and usually requires double boss. Now this is one of the few builds I played that was able to get 7 rewards in back-to-back waves and also do it without double boss spawning. So Venom Gyre is just an insane skill for Simulacrum, and with the 12 link claw, I really think the sky is the limit. I think my damage is probably a quarter of the #1 person's profile, and it's actually crazy how much damage scales, but my rings, synthesized rings, and brutal restraint could all be a lot better. So you can see here, there's only Omniphobia that shows up, and that's it. And it somehow still magically gets 7 rewards, and it's the first time out of all my Simulacrums that I've gotten 7 rewards while having only 1 boss, and that just goes to show a testament to the true power of the build. So let's get started, and this is a story about finishing the perfect 11 link Dex Stacking Claw that kind of bankrupted us and was kind of a very, very expensive craft, and a craft that I probably would never attempt again in subsequent leagues, purely because it is so annoying trying to get the last suffix. But in the end, it was all worth it. Well, it's worth it only if people decide to mirror it, but we'll see what happens. I do think that this claw is very versatile and can be played with a lot of different builds. So some quick backdrop before we go into how we actually crafted the claw. This is a footage of the YouTube video that I saw that made me want to do the build or try it out. And this is a Dex Stacking Claw build with Venom Gyre. Again, it's an identical build, except this guy in his PoB has around 170 million DPS. In the video you just saw, I probably had around like 60 to 70 mil or maybe less. So this is some insane damage that this guy has, and you can clearly see that this build has insane amounts of potential. So I decided, why not try it to make a 12 link claw? Because for Lightning Strike and other builds like that, a 12 link claw usually ends up being around double damage. So I'm like, it should be really, really good. I decided to try it out on PoB, and yeah, it said that it was going to be nearly a double damage. So we decided that the 11 link claw should be not the worst thing to make, especially with recombiners, and that's purely because recombiners make doing the prefixes extremely easy. Now, we kind of underestimated how hard the suffixes would be. We thought we were just going to recombine 2 5-mod claws together, and eventually it would hit, and it's like a 25% chance to hit that. And you can see, man, this guy's damage is absurd. How come my build's not like that? Man, that's what Mir's worth of gear actually gets, right? So this guy's damage is absurd. Holy moly. But he just decimates the Simulacrum. So we kind of underestimated the cost of the craft, and we kind of should have known because we tried to make the original 12 link claw earlier for Lightning Strike, and when we did it, I think we sunk 11 mirrors and never hit the last suffix. So we thought that with the recombiner method, maybe it would be okay, but it turns out it was not really that okay. So what's actually the crafting method? So we decided to use recombiners to make a triple T1 prefix, and this ends up using a lot of Awakener's Orb. In order to use the recombiner method, you have to have a Shaper and Elder Imperial Claw when you do it, so that the end base will have both influences. So what that means is you have to go to trade, you have to buy a lot of Elder Claws, you have to buy a lot of Shaper Claws, and you have to Awaken Orb them together to create a Shaper and Elder Imperial base. And after you get the Shaper Elder Imperial base, and you can't easily clean out the market from doing this, you have to start rolling claws with 1 mod. So you can choose to get, so the prefixes are always going to be socketed gems are supported by level 20 elemental damage of attacks, and then you're going to have the Dex Stacking mod, and then you're going to have socketed attacks deal 40% more damage. So basically, you want to use fossils or you want to use chaos to isolate a mod, 1 mod like this, and then you want to have a fodder mod. And what a fodder mod does is that it makes it a lot easier to be able to craft on. Let's see here. What a fodder mod does is it makes it a lot easier to get more mods on the end resulted item so that you have a better chance. So what this means is that, say right here, this is a 2 modded claw. So on the first step, we only want to do 1 mod at a time. So we want to isolate this mod, and then we want to craft on the bench any mod that can be duplicated that's a prefix. So we could just craft on something random like this. So when we recombine a claw of this and then another claw, say with just socket skills deal 40% more attack damage in the same crafted mod, it will give us a better chance according to this thing because it will have 4 mods in the pool, and it'll have a 55% chance to choose 2 mods, and then of the 2 mods, I think it's around a 40% chance to get the 2 mod resulting base. So you want to end up with a base like this from 1 mod, and then once you have 2 of these bases, and then you recombine them together. So this is, you don't want to use a fodder mod when you want to make a 3 prefix item. So you only want to use the extra crafted mod when you're going for 2 mods on the item, but when you're going for 3 mods on the item, you always want to just do it like this. So right now it's a 4 mods in the pool, and it's just a 35% chance to choose 3 mods. So once you have 2 of these bases, then you can recombine it together, and it's a 35% chance to get a triple T1 prefix that is perfect. Now, it's not exactly 35% because there's always a chance that the mod could go down a tier. So when we did this, I think there's a few times that we lowered the tier of this to 18, but the other ones are only 1 tier. So that's the only thing that can happen. So basically at this point, making a triple T1 prefix is not really that difficult. It's pretty much a matter of time. It's more annoying in trying to buy all of the claws that are Imperial and Elder and buy all of the Awakener's Orb. Now comes kind of the hard part, and this part is kind of really annoying. So let's just say we ended up recombining it and we hit it. So let's go give it some mods right now. We have socket at 40% damage, and then the Dex Stacking mod. So right now what we ended up doing is we crafted on prefixes cannot be changed. And what this does is this allows us to use a harvest craft in order to get attack speed. So what we did, I think, was, let's see, we used reforged speed, I'm pretty sure. What did we do? Decided exalt and annul. We use reforged speed to land T1 attack speed, crit strike, or crit damage. You could also do reforged crit. Not really sure which one is better. It really just depends on what you want to do, but actually there should be one that's better, right? But basically you want to use reforged. You can do reforged crit more likely, and you probably won't hit it, or you could do reforged speed, but I think reforged speed is probably a better chance. Reforged speed. So eventually, so each one of these attempts costs around 2x, and if you hit it, if you don't hit it, you have to do it again. And wow, if you get T1 attack speed, we actually thought it was pretty good. T1 attack speed is probably like a 10% lower DPS claw overall. And yeah, so you can see this step could cost a lot. So you can see here, so at this step here, we'll have T1 faster attacks. What you could do right now is you could try to buy Aug Influence. You could put on a crafted mod and buy remove non-influence, add influence. The problem with this method is that there were not really that many up for sale, and it ends up being really, really expensive to try to buy all of them. And it's just not really that feasible to craft it anymore because of the lower player base. So what we decided to do was we decided to craft on this mod, and I think they calced it out. So it's accuracy, strength, and dex. So what this mod does is it blocks off dex and it also blocks off accuracy. And then we decided to exalt until we hit something good. And I think it was like a 1 in 150 chance to hit something. So maybe I just keep spamming this, we won't really hit it. Now, if you miss the hit, you have to do cannot roll attack and then annul. And if the mod that you exalt on is attack, so it's like right here, you can do cannot roll attack. And then you can annul off this eventually because all of these mods are attack mods. But if you can't do that, you have to do prefixes cannot be changed and then YOLO gamble to annul. So I could probably do this for quite a while, and I would probably never hit it because it's such a low odds. But doing this step is probably easier in terms of not having to deal with people on TFT messing up the claw. But very, very difficult step. You can see here why it actually costs so much money just to get a 5 mod claw. But eventually you will get it. So right here, you will settle on this. So you have Socket Gems are supported by level 18 crit damage. Now, what we decided to do, which is probably dumb in retrospect, is we decided to recombine two 5-mod bases. So we would take one claw with these suffixes and then another claw with level 20 faster attacks, level 20 crit chance, and try to recombine it. And here I have some footage of the disastrous stuff, right? That's going to happen. And you might want to not look at this because, man, looking at this actually makes me cringe in terms of, actually, I don't know what's going on here. Well, that's some RuneScape. So basically, let's turn this up to 720p. So these are just two attempts right here. So we can see here we have two claw. All the prefixes are correct. And then suffix, we have faster attacks, crit chance. And then right here, we have faster attacks, crit damage. So right now, it's around a 25% chance to keep everything. So he has to keep all of the prefixes and all of the suffixes. So right here, you can see here already, so we have 3 prefixes and it missed the suffix. Can you believe that? It missed the suffix. So we have crit strikes, crit damage, and faster attacks disappear. Now we have another base that we already prepped. So we decided to do it again. And this is where it all broke down. And each one of these attempts, these claws by itself, we sold a 5-mod pair for 1 meter, pretty much because there's no other pair that exists. And you can pretty much use this pair right here and craft on attack speed. And it ends up being around probably like 15 to 20% lower in DPS. So now it comes to attempt number 2. So again, this is triple prefix, both the same. And crit strikes, crit damage. And right here is faster attacks, crit damage. So what's going to happen here? And this is where we started crying. We couldn't take it anymore. The pain was just too great. Making each one of these 5-mod claws took so long, even if it wasn't like that much currency investment. It just was such a horrific experience. And then immediately, it was disaster, right? Look at this. What happened to the claw? Look at this. The prefix lost the prefix. That's already really unlucky. And what happened here was that it lost both suffixes. So if you want to see how bad odds this was to happen, you can see here, crafting bots, 5 mods in the pool, or is it 4 mod? It was 4 mods in the pool. 10% chance to choose 1 mod. And not only did it only choose 1 mod, it added on a shit mod that was really annoying. So our claw was completely brick. We just wasted 4 bases down the drain. And yeah, it was sad. So when you have 6 mods in the pool, it's a 70% chance to choose 3 mods. So that claw that you just saw in the last brick hit the 30% chance to choose 2 mods on the prefix, and it hit the 10% chance to choose 1 mod, and that was our last base. So we failed like 4 of these attempts. I don't know if you can see the other attempt that we failed because this YouTube video is loading very slowly, but let's go see here. Okay, this is the first attempt, and we had another attempt before this that was in my previous video. So this was a triple prefix, crit damage, crit strikes, faster attacks, crit damage. And what do you think is going to happen here? Obviously, it's not going to hit. But I think he's very afraid. He's building up suspense. Still hasn't clicked it. And let's see. Oh, you guys can't really see it. But you can see here, elemental damage of attacks, more attack damage. So this one is the same exact thing again. It's missing 2 suffix. So this is another almost hit. And it's just very unlucky at this point. But this was actually one of our first ones that we did. So as a last-ditch effort, we decided to buy a YOLO AUG influence. I think it was actually a remove non-influence, add influence on the last remaining 5-mod claw that we have, because I think we had another base that we ended up prepping. And the guy ended up hitting T1 crit damage or T1 crit chance. I'm not really sure what he ended up hitting, but that's how we made the claw. The unfortunate story of this terrible crafting method finally came to a conclusion as we made it. Now, you might be wondering, why is this claw so strong and how good is it? Now, what it does is this is the #1 profile from this YouTube video that you saw earlier on where the guy was doing Simulacrum. So he has 117 mil DPS. And when you switch to this claw, so he's using a regular Dex Stacking Claw. This is a very, very good claw, almost perfect. And he's using a % Dex Shield. Now, you switch over to Skullfang, and then you switch over to the Squire. And then I made the link right here with the 11 link 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there's 11th link is the socket attacks deal 40% more damage. And you can see here, it was actually supposed to go higher. I don't know what happened to it. But it goes to 174 or 200 mil. When I did it, it was around 207 mil. I think I messed something up in the config. But basically, it's nearly like, I think double damage. Not exactly double damage, probably 70 damage. And that's kind of because the links for this build are not as good as... I think I forgot to swap the Squire. Yeah, so that's why it's 207. So it's not as much as I thought it would be, but it's around 50 to 60 mil, which is like 30, 40%. Or wait, it's like 50, 60% damage upgrade. Now, the main reasoning why it's so strong is because attribute stacking grants a lot of flat damage. And what happens when you have a lot of links on your weapon is that these links scale the flat damage that you get. And because you get so much flat damage to scale with the links, that's how the damage becomes so high. So I do think that this is an insane upgrade for most people. The crit damage link ends up providing nearly 160% multi. Now, the biggest thing about this claw, which I think is a very underrated, is compared to the traditional 12-link claw that people have with Ruthless and Multi-Strike, this claw allows you to play with Spectral Throw, you can play with Venom Gyre, you can play with Frost Blades, and you can use any attack-based skill, and you're not pigeonholed into only using melee skills with like Lightning Strike. So with this claw, theoretically, you can play Lightning Strike. So like say here, you can switch it over to Lightning Strike. Okay, Evolve Lightning Strike, and then you want to have Awaken Multi-Strike instead of Fork, which doesn't actually do anything. So with this claw, you have a lot of different options. So Awaken Multi-Strike, Hypothermia, Awaken Cold Pen, Nightblade, and I think these are probably the right links that you want. And right here, you can see with the melee hits, 83 mil and 280 mil on the projectiles. So you can see here, there's a lot of different options. You can play Multi-Strike, you can play Frost Blades even. Let's see what Frost Blades comes out to with the projectile. 231 mil. So options are abound with this claw, and it's actually really cool that you can do any type of skill. You can even play Cold Flicker Strike, which I do see a lot of people trying out. So overall, this is the strongest Simulacrum build I've ever played. I've never reached 7 rewards 5 times in one Simulacrum. I never gotten it on only one boss. I actually almost reached 7 rewards with no bosses. Now, the total cost of crafting this claw is honestly too hard to calculate. I never really kept track of it after a certain point, or my friends did it. But in terms of how many 5 mod bases we bricked, it was probably around like 10 mirrors, I would say. Generous estimate. Now, the fee we're setting at 100x because we don't really want to make it like some insane fee. Maybe we can make it lower. But basically, the claw would need to be mirrored around 40 times to break even. That just comes down to just some quick math, like 465 exalts for a mirror, 4,650 exalts for 10 mirrors, and 46.5 copies to break even technically. So when you make items like that are this expensive, sometimes you never make back the money, and it's pretty much just a money loss. And with how dead the league is right now, will this get mirrored 40 times? I don't really know. Depends on how popular deck stacking archetype truly is. And it also illustrates the limits of making items or recombiners and making 5 to 6 mod items. Recombiners are a lot better at making 3, 4 mod items. Making 5 to 6 mod items requires rolling too many things together. But eventually, it might be the only way to make the item. TFT just had so few remove non-influence and aug influences from trusted and exalted members that I did feel like if we kept doing recombiners, if we didn't do recombiners, the claw would eventually get scammed. Now, the nice thing is that the person who eventually hit our claw actually made a Reddit post about it, so he's actually probably pretty happy and excited that he hit the claw. So he said, 2 days ago, landed this one on TFT service, non-influence to influence with 2 tries. Congrats once again if you're a Reddit user also. So shout out to this guy for finally hitting it. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that this whole video took you through the journey of making this item. I didn't really put in that much effort into the item at all. I pretty much just oversaw it and saw what they were doing. And it kind of illustrates the dangers of making a 12-link weapon. The last suffix is incredibly RNG. I think one of the 2 leagues ago in Scourge, I think one of the most prolific crafters, Cuban, spent around 30 mirrors and never hit the last suffix. RNG is RNG. Hitting the last suffix, I think, is a 1 in 14 chance to get T1 and 1 in 14 chance to get any tier, and a 1 in 28 chance to get tier 1. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, and mage bless than me, and see you next time. Bye!